Welcome back to the Charlie Cook Cricket Podcast. Now, cricket has changed a lot in the last week since we last recorded an episode. A lot happened in the County Championship, but we've had delays to the PSL and the IPL. World War III looks like it's about to start. Virat Kohli has retired from Test cricket, and we've had the first team news of a Harry Brook-led white ball side for England. Joe joins me today. We're going to break down all of the kind of England aspects of what has happened. We are going to start with the white ball squads that England have released. No massive surprises. I mean, there's a couple in there. You have Luke Wood from Lancs coming into the T20 side, which I wouldn't have necessarily seen. Liam Dawson coming into the T20 squad. A few drops. Phil Salt's out of the ODI squad. Livingston is dropped from both. Joe, what do you reckon? First initial impression of that squad. Happy, not happy? Could have gone more different?
Overall, I like it. I think it's a lot more balanced, a lot better balanced than what we've seen previously. A couple of kind of notable omissions for me is Liam Dawson's not in the ODI squad. I think that was perfect for kind of him. Like 6 or 7 is kind of the perfect role for him in that side. I would have liked to have seen him in there. They've obviously I feel like probably picked Tom Hartley over him, which I love Tom Hartley. Obviously, being a Lions fan is one of my favorite players. I always like seeing him play for England, so not displeased that he's playing. But I would have liked to see Dawson in the squad additionally. No Sam Curran in either. I think it's quite an interesting one as well. He doesn't really seem to have a role right now under McCullum. He obviously kind of spoke about getting him back into the Test side last year and coming into the white ball sides at the minute. So I guess that isn't really going to happen for him.
I'm not upset about Curran not being in either side. I'm at that stage now where I just don't know what he offers. I just don't think that he's good enough to be a batsman in the squad. I don't think he's good enough to be a bowler in the squad.
I think you have to get his role so right. Like I think he's ideal for that kind of middle overs role with the ball, in particularly T20 cricket. And I feel like if England can't fit him in, you kind of make that kind of marry up to the batting line.
But he goes for runs in the middle overs. He's too expensive.
True, but I feel like in the West Indies over the winter was when I've seen him bowl the best, probably definitely since the T20 World Cup a few years ago when he was obviously player of the tournament. So I feel like that role suited him pretty well. But yeah, there's not really a place for him in the side, unfortunately. And no Sam Hain is the other kind of big one for me. Yeah, I would love to see him in the ODI squad. I understand why. Well, I don't understand why, but I understand the fact that he's not in is because it doesn't really fit the bill in terms of what they're looking for. But to me, they miss an opportunity there. And I guess you could say they don't want Root and Hain in the same team, but to me, it's kind of like something you've got to do.
Yeah, the problem is, and I'm with you. I'd love to fit Hain in that squad, but to get him in his best position, you're going to have to pick him over Root or Brook, and I can't see it happening. It's the case of there's been so many good number 4s that England have had over the years, whether that's Test match cricket, whether that's white ball cricket, and they just haven't fitted into a squad because Joe Root's there, and Joe Root might be the best England batsman of all time. So it's just, I just think I'm with you. I think that Sam Hain should play, and you should try and fit him into the squad. I kind of understand why they haven't.
Caveat that, sorry, I would just say to caveat that, I would like to see Brook open the batting. So that could potentially fit Hain at 3-4. But yeah, sorry, carry on. That was just kind of a little caveat I had to that.
Yeah, Josh Butler coming into this. I think that they were going to drop him? No. Would I have maybe looked for someone else for that the ODI squad? Maybe that is the way you get a Sam Hain in, by batting Brook at 5 and having Hain at 4 with Root at 3. England's greatest white ball batter ever. Is he at the tail end of his career? Possibly. Is the no captaincy going to help him? Yeah, it probably will. He's had a really good IPL. I think if he would have gone and stunk up the IPL, then maybe we're having a different conversation. How do you see him lining up? Because the way I'd have it would be Duckett, Banton opening, Root 3, Brook 4, Butler 5, Smith or Bethel 6, depending on if Butler wants to take the gloves. If Butler takes the gloves, then you'd probably say Bethel 6, and then you're looking at an Overton, Hartley, Potts, Cars, kind of around there, and then Rashid to finish it off. Depending on what you want to do with the bowlers, it's rest and rotation and different things like that.
Yeah, I think there it kind of goes back to Dawson because he would have been perfect at 7. I feel like they're a batter short or a bowler short, depending on what they kind of go with. So I would probably go with, like I said, I think I would like to try Brook at the top of the order. I'd like to see Brook try himself at the top of the order. So I'd probably go with Brook and Duckett opening, Root 3, Bethel 4. Maybe I'd go with Jax in the middle order. I know we spoke about Jax in the middle order before.
Will Jax Moeen Ali, I'm
and I'm
so
kind of
here
intrigued
for
to see that in ODI cricket. I have realised I've just completely overlooked Banton. So maybe I would go Banton 3, Root 4. It's hard, isn't it, to fit everyone in? But then definitely Butler, Smith 6, 7 with whoever wants to keeping. But I'd probably go Smith just based on him batting 7 and not keeping is a bit weird. And then Hartley and then Rashid in there as well. But then that feels a seamer short. So this is what I mean when it says, this is what I mean when I say like it feels like they're a batter or bowler short.
And then you think if they're gonna play Root and Bethel, do you need 2 spinners in Hartley and Rashid?
Yeah, especially in England.
Yeah, they're going to pick one spinner, and it's going to be Rashid. Whether Rashid, I feel like we might need to start having conversation. Is Rashid going to make it to South Africa? This is obviously what we're building up to.
Well, I was surprised that Rayan Ahmed wasn't in the ODI squad as well, based on that. He's the natural successor, certainly for now. You could argue Farhan Ahmed one day will come into the equation, and maybe Carson, someone like that. But I was surprised Rayan wasn't in the ODI squad. For me, he is, as I said, the natural successor to Rashid. So, yeah, obviously Rayan Ahmed offers that ability with the bat. He could have been the guy to bat 7, and then you're kind of not as worried about the depth. He's clearly a very good batter, as we've seen in the county championship and previous occasions as well in his career. So he could have been someone who got an inclusion. I think if you see someone drop out of the squad, we'll actually see Rayan Ahmed come in. I'd imagine he will be the guy to come into the squad. But yeah, the ODI
Liam
side
Dawson.
is
Liam Dawson is perfect. Dawson,
of course. Well, yeah, of course. But I feel like they're less likely to pick Dawson and more likely to invest into Rayan Ahmed in the future. So yeah, I mean the T20 squad is also quite tough to pick from, isn't it? I will also say with the T20 squad, it's very telling that Jofra is not in that. He's 100% playing Test cricket this summer.
Well, the T20 series is on at the same time as that second Lions game, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Like it's blatantly obvious to me that he's going to play Test cricket now. He'll probably play in that Lions game, and the fact that he's playing in the ODIs, I know obviously they clashed, but I think also is telling that he's playing in the ODIs rather than the T20s because that's A, more overs under his belt, and B, closer to Test cricket than T20 cricket is, as we spoke about during the Champions Trophy. So that kind of is quite telling to me. And yeah, I'm not surprised that Archer is not in the T20 squad because it's pretty clear now that he'll play Test cricket to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be amazed if Archer doesn't play probably the second Test. They're going to want to try and get his loads up. He's playing a lot of 4 overs, bowling a lot of 4 overs at the moment and not 10. He's obviously coming off the Champions Trophy, touch wood. He's looked pretty fit throughout. So yeah, that's the only reason that I can see him being left out of that T20 squad. But also the ODIs are just a little bit more important than the T20s are. We're obviously down
qualification on the line.
Yeah, we're down in 8th now, with West Indies being 9th in the rankings and the top 8 automatically qualifying for the World Cup. You need to make sure that you've at least cemented that 8th place, which is a bit of a worry. And also now that India and Pakistan aren't going to play each other, do we all of a sudden get seeding in groups? That's probably a thing that's going to come in, and they might actually pick them correctly rather than just getting... although saying that, it's just one 10-team league, isn't it? So... I'm sure they'll change the format 300 times by the time it actually starts. I'm pretty happy with the squad. Phil Salt being left out of the ODIs, upset with that, happy with that.
Unsurprised. I'm a big fan of Phil Salt. I know he has it in him to play those kind of longer innings, but I think he probably got instructed to play how he did in the Champions Trophy. We saw him play a longer innings in an ODI in the Caribbean. He got, I think, 77 off, I can't remember, over 100 balls in the Caribbean over the winter. I've seen him score first class hundreds as well for Lancs. Not too slow, but also not too quick. So I've seen him, kind of play those longer innings, and other people have as well, I'm sure, for England and for Lancs. But not surprised. I think further down the line, there'll be scope for him to return. But for now, yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, how that team's probably going to look out, you're going to have 2 out of the 3 of Salt, Jacks, and Banton opening, most likely.
Duckett, will that in the middle order, do you think, then?
Oh, no, Duckett's going to open as well, isn't he?
I could see Duckett going in the middle order, actually. This is what I kind of wanted to happen over the winter as well. Because he's such a good player of spin, I could see that potentially happening.
Yeah, but he does start quickly, and he knows how to find a boundary.
It does also mean if they open with spin, he's there to kind of negate that.
Which they have often with Akil Hussain, haven't they?
Yes, yeah.
He often opens.
One of the best power play bowlers in the world, spinner or super, I think. So
yeah. So so it's 2 out of the 4. You'd imagine Butler 3, Brook 4, 5 might become a little bit more difficult to pick now that you haven't got a Livingston or a Curran to put in there.
5's where we could see against someone like Jacks, maybe.
Yeah,
potentially.
I mean, I can't imagine Butler going down to 4 and then trying to fit a Banton or someone like that in.
I wouldn't be surprised because maybe McCullum wants him to play that finishing role, or not finishing role, but the more kind of middle overs role. But I don't see it happening. But I wouldn't be too surprised if it did.
No,
but that's an interesting one as well.
So yeah, maybe Jack's down to the middle order. I could see that happening. Then you're looking at Dawson coming in at 6. And then you're looking towards kind of the bowling all rounders in Jamie Overton, Brian Ahmed if they want to go that way. Cars. That T20 squad looks interesting. It seems to be lacking some middle order batsmen. Maybe even Brook goes down to 5 and they go kind of those 4 that we thought might open. I
think the Blast has come at a good time, though. I think people can really stake a claim now in the Blast, and
massively.
If people go and get 2 or 3 players, who bat number 5 for their counties, go and get 300, 400 runs or something like that. Throughout the Blast, a ridiculously high strike rate, 160, 170, 180, that kind of area, then they could be looking at real potential for an England call. But I don't know who that would be off the top of my head. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. Maybe someone like a Save Zabe, for example, who's naturally a good T20 player, bowls good spin, is a good fielder. Someone like that who just has a freak of a tournament again. I'm happy with the Luke Wood inclusion as well. We'll say that. Someone who I've been like a big advocate for playing international cricket. Again, I've seen a lot of him for Lancs. Play a lot of franchise cricket around the world, so knows the opposition a lot. And it's a genuinely quick left arm who swings the ball in. Is a really, really good Yorker bowler as well, the death.
Who's had a good PSL as well.
Exactly. I think he has to be someone who plays for England week in, week out. In T20 cricket, I also would look at him in ODI cricket as well because of his death bowling skills. I feel like that's what England lacks massively in the Champions Trophy, so he's a good option in 50 over cricket potentially as well.
That is the one thing I will say about the ODI squad is, again, it's probably lacking some difference in there.
No left arms. No left arm quicks, I should say. Yeah.
Again, it's not as samey as it was in the Champions Trophy. We're not going Mark Wood, Jofra Archer, Bryden Cass, Gus Atkinson. There's a Matt Potts in there. I think Saqib Mahmood is great. So there is a little bit of difference there. I'd imagine they're going to be quite careful with Cass in this series.
Yep.
Because they're going to want him to. He's more important for that test.
And I'd imagine Potts won't. Well, Potts and Atkinson and Cass and Archer in the ODI series will probably play 2 of the 3. Yeah, between them. Well, sorry, not between them, but each one will play 1, maybe 2, like say. And I think Overton and Mahmood will probably play the majority of the games. throughout both series because less of a priority for Test cricket. Although I do think Mahmood should be in the fold of a Test call-up.
I think Jamie Overton should be in the fold of a Test call-up, especially coming to Australia.
I don't hate that idea.
I know Jamie Overton gets a load of hate because he doesn't do much, but I think as a Red Bull player, he could definitely do something. I just go back to that 97 that he made at Headingley. Was it Headingley? I think he did in 2020.
It was, yeah.
That first Basball summer. I great in that. I thought he bowled well. I thought he batted well, and would slot into. I think he gives you more of an option than Wokes would, because he's that little bit faster. He's that little bit bigger. He can hit the pitch, and you can go for more skillful bowlers like Matt Potts, or Sam Cook, someone like that, to come into the side that I think offer you a little bit more than Wokes does. So that's something that I'd like to see in the Test squad. But in terms of all the selections, I don't see anything wrong. There's no one glaring that I'd say, how have you not picked this person? Have they picked Liam Dawson just to appease some county fans in a T20 series? Maybe.
They should have picked him for the ODI series as well, for being honest.
They should have picked him for the Test series for the last 3 years.
And for the Test side as well. But it's a start, and if he does well, we know England pick based on form in any format. You could easily kind of carry yourself through different squads based on form in T20 cricket.
I think the one worry with Dawson was because of all the rumours of he's pissed off this setup by saying, I'm going to play in the SA20, I'm not going to play in the Test series versus India, that he kind of burnt his bridges. But if he's come back into the side now, Harry Brook does come across as someone that's going to say, no, this bloke's good, I want to pick him. So I'm not too worried about politics with Harry Brook. He does seem very kind of straight to the point, and things like that. We should probably move on to Harry Brook's Yorkshire and go through all the county championship games. Yorkshire versus Essex was an unbelievable game to start off with. Yorkshire 216 all out in their first innings, 4 wickets from the spin of Matt Critchley. Essex in reply, blown away 123, 6 wickets from George Hill. And then Yorkshire's second innings, they score 426 for 6 declared. Adam Lyth with 185. Bairstow quicker than a runnable 79 to get him up to that total as well. Giving Essex 520 runs to win, or 130 odd overs that they had to survive. And they managed to do it. 9 down. You have Critchley and Pepper face nearly a combined 500 deliveries between them. Simon Harmer with 100 deliveries that he faced. Even Jamie Porter, number 11, managed to survive 34 balls in the end. This was the great escape from Essex, and Yorkshire really struggling to get over the line in this one.
Yeah, a very, very impressive kind of display of character really shown from Essex. They're obviously never going to chase that. So to kind of, particularly Michael Pepper and, I obviously Critchley batted well, but I think Michael Pepper showed a really different side to his game. 60 out of 229, showed that ability to. This isn't an innings he's going to play often, right? He's not that kind of a player. He's actually someone who's obviously been in white ball consideration at times as well for England. I think he'd kind of been pigeonholed as a white ball player, but this innings showed great resilience, great character. To just really stick it out and showed a different side to his game. It was good to see, alongside Critchley as well, who obviously batted pretty well himself. And yeah, really, as a good character shown from Essex. And I think Yorkshire will be very disappointed not to get the win, because I think they could have probably done without winning. Obviously, their form has dipped. They've not won now in 3 games. Perilously close to the drop zone. I mean, Worcestershire sadly probably destined for relegation at this stage. But there's a few teams who are kind of in and around that 50, 60 point mark now. Essex being one of them in 5th, all the way down to Somerset in 9th. And Yorkshire only 1 point ahead of Somerset now. So they probably could have done without win. So for them to not, which obviously also increases the gap between them and Essex, is obviously doesn't reduce the gap, is a bit of a blow for them.
The next 3 games they've got Surrey, and then they've got Notts twice. They've got to play them home and away. That's 3 games you don't want to be playing. kind of middle of the season when everything's starting to crunch, you could see Yorkshire after those 3 games be almost nailed on to be finishing down the bottom. These are the points that you needed to pick up, especially against someone that's so close to you in the table. Yorkshire did as much as they could on day 4. I kind of want to say that it was Essex batting well rather than them kind of Yorkshire bowling poorly. It was just, I mean, there was a lot of spin in there. Don Best bowls 38 overs. Dan Moriarty bowls 36. Lyth had a few as well. They just couldn't get through. I think I saw something on Twitter that they're going to have a bit of a shake-up of their seam bowling attack for the game against Surrey, so we'll see how that goes. It does feel like they are missing some kind of top quality seamers.
Yeah, they obviously have neither of the overseas players played this week. So Sears and Buckingham, so that's obviously been a bit of a change in that sense. So yeah, that's, I guess, kind of taking the time to adapt. Maybe they have. I believe Will Sutherland is coming in on a pay-as-you-play kind of deal in Red Bull cricket. Obviously, he'll be their Blast overseas. They've obviously got Will O'Rourke coming in for the Blast. So it'll be interesting to see if either of those end up playing in Red Bull cricket as well. That will be quite fascinating. But yeah, I will just say that George Hill bowled fantastically again, 9 wickets in a match. Maybe there's a worry he's too slow, but I think he's kind of Stokes' successor. Depending on this, kind of the makeup of England's attack, at that point, I think you could probably get away with him kind of bowling around that 80 mile an hour, mid 70s, 80 mile an hour mark. As I say, depending on who else is in that side. So I would like to think he's probably England's next all-rounder after Stokes, or at least will be in consideration. He's a very, very good player.
Yeah, I like it. It does worry me that he's probably 5 miles an hour slower than where you want him to be. I don't even need him to be up at 85, 87.
Yeah.
Just would like him to be closer to that 82,
83. He does move the ball around, which I guess obviously that works in his favour. So, it's not kind of it's not going to be easy necessarily to face him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want him to fall into that kind of Ryan Higgins, Darren Stevens kind of mould of being a very, very good county all-rounder, but just doesn't quite have that extra skill to make that jump. Best cricket, I could see it happening. I love how he played. He picked up 6 wickets in this first innings. He has the skills to do it. It's just, is that kind of 5 mile an hour going to let him down when it moves on to the next stage? But really good save from Essex. Yorkshire will be gutted. They did try as much as they could towards the end, but Essex just managed to see them home. Moving on to Warwickshire versus Surrey. The game was relatively dull. It's a lot of batting, a very, very flat pitch at Warwickshire. Even so, I saw someone on Twitter calling out Warwickshire for their pitches. And it got so bad that the head groundsman of Edgbaston actually fired back and said, "What do you want me to do? We keep having games of cricket and we can't sustain it." Warwickshire in the first innings, 665 for 5 declared. Tom Latham with a century, Ed Barnard with a century, and Zen Malik with a century as well. 3 centurions in that. And then when it came to Surrey's reply, they were 346 for 9, trailing by just over 300 runs, and looking like that they were staring defeat right in the face. But then Ben Folkes and Matt Fisher put on a partnership of 158, one of the highest last wicket partnerships we've seen in the county championship. Ben Folkes scores 174, Matt Fisher with 40. That basically saved the game. That got them through to day 4. They enforced a follow on. The rain came on day 4. Surrey finished 15 for no loss, and the game ends in a draw. This was some knock by Ben Folkes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a really good innings, and people are criticising for how he bats with the tail. Wasn't really an issue, kind of. Well, actually, all of these Surrey players can bat. I mean, Steele, Clark, Smith, all rounders. Laws, I would say, is at least a bowler rounder, and Fisher's certainly no mug with the bat as he showed. So yeah, I don't think that he was necessarily marshalling tail enders, but he
No.
still had a really big role to do and did it fantastically well. Again, another gutsy innings, kind of making sure his team didn't lose essentially. So I thought he played well, and yeah, look, it was a good pitch. It was a flat pitch. There's no denying that. But yeah, folks cashed in. So did Latham, Barnard, and Zen Malik as well. They were fantastic. Rob Yates as well was in the runs. So I think Warwickshire overall will be pretty chuffed that they gave Surrey a good run for their money. And had it not been for that innings from Folks or, of course, Fisher, things could have panned out very differently.
Yeah, I mean, George Bell wrote a thing in the Cricketer saying that folks is answering the questions that were asked for him by England, and why he was dropped from the England side is that he couldn't kind of bat with a tail. I'm not necessarily sure that that's what he did. What England wanted him to do was attack with the tail and kind of take the strike, because at the point where folks was playing for us, we had quite a long tail. It was you kind of had broad and at 8, it was just a little bit too high. Whereas in this Surrey team, they back down to 11. There's been numerous occasions where 10 and 11 have put on an extra 100 and could move the game on into Surrey's favour. It happens quite a lot. So I don't think that folks scoring 174 at a strike rate of 50 and with tailenders that are actually pretty good with the bat against the Warwickshire side that doesn't have express pace, who have bowled 180 overs in the sun, is necessarily what you want to look at when you're saying, has Ben Folks fixed all of his problems? It's a fantastic knock. Do I think it's enough to bring folks back into that conversation over Jamie Smith, Jordan Cox, James Rue? I think they'd probably pick Bairstow. Ollie Pope. They pick Bairstow over him, I reckon. If they had to pick between Folks and Bairstow, I think they still pick Bairstow. Just because that's what they want their wicketkeeper at number 7 to do, is attack. So I think it was a fantastic knock, and it completely saved the game for Surrey. I don't think it's answered the questions that we had around Folks realistically.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think Folks has had a good, fair crack at Test cricket. I would say he's played 25 games, and he's a good wicketkeeper. I don't know if that's all that it counts for in these days. I mean, Gilchrist was really a pioneer. Gilchrist was a fantastic gloveman, but he was a pioneer of being a batter than a wicketkeeper. And I think that's what Jamie Smith definitely is. That's what some of the other guys you mentioned there are as well. And don't get me wrong, Folks is a really, really good player. I love watching Ben Folks back when he's in. It's really, really just exciting to watch, isn't it? But I just don't know if that's kind of enough to get him back into the Test side. And he's not going to get back in over Jamie Smith right now. I always find it quite funny that Jamie Smith doesn't keep for Surrey, but to me, Folks isn't really next in line anyway. But it was a great knock, undoubtedly. So,
but if you could just have, if you were playing both of them, if you were playing Jamie Smith and Ben Folks in the same side, like Surrey often are, then you'd give Folks the gloves.
Because absolutely.
Folks is the best gloveman in the world. Like, there's no conversation about who's better. It's Ben Folks. He does ridiculous things behind the stumps.
He's a ridiculous wicketkeeper.
But if you've got to pick one, for me, I want, maybe it's just how I'm wired and other people are different and they want their best gloveman, because taking 20 wickets is a lot harder than scoring the runs. And you saw in the India series, some of the catches that Folks took, some of the stumpers that he had, no other keeper in the world is doing that. But I think
I also don't think Smith is like a bad keeper by any stretch. Like, no. Of course, he made mistakes last summer at times. Everyone makes mistakes as a wicketkeeper at times. Like, I think we've spoken about Carver being one of the best in the world. He's made mistakes before. Alex Carey, for me, is probably the best in the world alongside Varane right now. He's made plenty of mistakes. Rishabh Pant, plenty of, like, it just happens. Being a wicketkeeper is perhaps the hardest thing you can do in cricket, particularly in Test cricket. So, yeah, look, it happens. Mistakes happen, and unfortunately, I do think that the door is kind of closed, at least under this kind of current regime, for Folks in a Test shirt. But yeah, I'll be interested to see kind of how he keeps kind of going about his run scoring for the rest of the season.
Yeah. we should probably look at the other Centurions. Tom Latham looked good. It's such a shame that he wasn't there from the start of the season. That he missed out with that. It was broken finger, wasn't it, that he was out with?
The hand injury, definitely.
Yeah, it's a shame that he wasn't there. Warwickshire have had a relatively good start to the season. I mean, they're sitting in second at the moment, so might have even been better if he would have been there as well. Ed Barnard is just, when we talk of that kind of the county all-rounders that just are really good every week, your Ryan Higgins, your Darren Stevens, he kind of fits into that role, doesn't he?
Yeah. I'm glad I captained him on a cricket draft this week.
I
Good week to bring him in captain. So
I had a decision to make between him and Bo Webster, and I went with Bo Webster, and I'm not very happy about it. It didn't go that well for me. I should have picked Barnard. And I'm annoyed. Zen Malik scored a century as well. I don't actually know much about him, I have to admit.
yeah, he is another product of Saka, which is for me one of the kind of best initiatives we've ever seen in cricket. I mean, it's produced so many like exceptional players, not just young players as well. Like Zen Malik is in his mid-20s. He's 27 years of age, just turned, and he's one of the most talented players to come out of Saka, and has got a well-deserved maiden 100 after obviously be 49 that out against Yorkshire. So I think Zen Malik is kind of an example of how good Saka is and what it kind of does for the county game, and for cricketers younger or a bit older, like Zen Malik is just kind of trying to make their way in professional cricket. It's a fantastic initiative. There are so many exceptional players that they have kind of on their books waiting to be picked up, who I think probably will be, or at least a few of them probably will be this season.
Yeah, no, it was good. Moving on to Nottinghamshire versus Hampshire. Nottinghamshire just cannot be stopped at this point. First innings, they score 333. Freddie McCann with 138, 5 wickets for Kyle Abbott. Hampshire in reply bowled out for 196. Would have been a lot worse if it wasn't for Kyle Abbott scoring 67 off 51, batting down at number 9. Not in reply, 345. Jack Haynes and Liam Patterson-White both scoring centuries. They were really in trouble at one point at 84 for 6, but a 240 partnership from those two dug them out the hole. Set Hampshire 483 to win, and Hampshire bowled out for 116. Lyndon James with 5 for 22. Brett Hutton 4 for 56. Notts might win it all, mightn't they?
Well, they have a really good shot, and they're just such a well-rounded side. They obviously have a really strong bowling attack, with the kind of luxury to be able to rest players on a weekly basis. It feels like, and obviously they lost Fergus O'Neill. Mohammed Abbas, what a start! 5 wickets on debut against his old club. I mean, it was written in the stars, that wasn't it? To take that 5 for against Hampshire, 5 for 31, economy just over 2, like economic. Just a genuine wicket taker. Notts are really, really good. They've got 2 exceptional openers. They've got a really good middle order. Jack Haynes is scoring runs, which is really good to see because he, like we spoke about previous weeks, has been through a bit of a tough time with the bat last year, but has proven exactly why not signing. That's back-to-back hundreds for him now. So yes, it's really good to see for Notts, and I do think they've got a very good shout. A little bit like Leicestershire in Division 1. They're pretty clear at the top. Sorry, I should say Leicester in Division 2. They're pretty clear at the top of Division 1 on 91 points now. Played 5, won 3, drawn 2. Like, it was a really good start. And it's hard to see how they'll be stopped at this stage. So, yeah, they've made a fantastic start.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with them. I mean, replacing Fergus O'Neill with Mohammed Abbas just feels like a cheat code for them at the moment. Okay, they've lost Josh Tongue. He's obviously gone out to be with the England squad now, so they won't have him back till, I mean, you're probably talking when we come back in September for the county fixtures. But they seem to have enough in reserve to do it. Tough loss for Hampshire. They were just outplayed realistically. It was a real struggle. No one really performed with the bat for Hampshire at all. Even Sonny Baker top scored for them in the second innings. They bowled out for 116. We knew that they weren't going to be as good as they have been, missing just a few too many players. Tough to replace those James Vince runs, which we said, does Vince wish that he might have stayed in the county championship with everything that's gone on in Pakistan now? Possibly. They're in sixth. That's exactly where I expect them to finish this year. I don't think they're going to get relegated, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's just where they finish. But they'll go back to the drawing board. They play Warwickshire next week, or this week coming. Then they've got Sussex and Essex. So it's not immensely difficult, their run. All kind of middle of the road. Warwickshire's probably looked the best out of those three so far. So I think they will be fine. But Notts keep on rolling. They're now 12 points clear at the top, and they've got to play Durham, and then they've got to play Yorkshire twice, home and away. The next three fixtures, that could be 3 wins.
Could well be.
Which would be pretty good for them. Going on to Sussex versus Worcestershire. Sussex 284 in their first innings. Jack Carson with a century, 5 wickets for Tom Taylor. In reply, Worcestershire bowled out for 180, giving up a 100-run deficit into the second innings. Sussex 256 in their second innings, and then Worcestershire chasing 361. Bowled out for 313. Jake Libby with 167. It was such a mammoth effort for him to try and get his side over the line, scoring over half of their runs. They nearly got there. There was a point where it looked like they might do it when they were 286 for 6, and there was a bit of a partnership, but they didn't quite get over the line. When Libby's wicket fell, the game was pretty much over. Again, it feels like Worcestershire get close again. They weren't blown away like they have been in the other games, but felt like is there something they can take away from this?
Well, I think so. Yeah, I mean, 361 is a big old target, and they give it a really good crack with obviously 313 all out. I don't think they bowled too badly. I mean, to bowl, particularly in that second innings, to bowl Sussex out for 256 is a pretty good effort. And then, the first innings again, 284. Like, it's not they're not too bad. I think generally Worcestershire's bowling hasn't been the worst this season. I think Tom Taylor's been pretty good throughout the season. I think he's probably been their best bowler. With Dan Newball taking 5 this week in the first innings. I think Fateh Singh as well. Really nice to see him included. He obviously is like a really kind of well-loved character at Worcestershire, and he took 3 for in the second innings. So good to see that the wickets were spread out. Ben Allison took 3 wickets as well. Tom Taylor took another couple in the second innings. So the wickets are pretty spread out. But again, it's just that kind of the lack of a partnership with the bat, I think, has cost them. And Jay Libby did do a lot of the heavy lifting, truth be told, and there was only one other player who passed 30, and that was Henry Nichols. And obviously, you can't really be relying on the tail. But I just think that they kind of lack that big partnership. Someone to kind of bat with Libby, just support him for a little bit longer than maybe Nichols did. So yeah, frustrating for Worcestershire overall. But yeah, I feel like the win is coming. I do. So hopefully they can get themselves on the board soon. And hey, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with their bowling whatsoever. It just seems to be where the runs are coming from. It just feels like their biggest struggle at the moment. She said Jake Libby scores runs this week, but the next highest score is Nichols with 34. It's just need to be a bit more. That's where they've struggled. That's where it's all gone wrong. They've looked pretty poor with the bat, with the exception of saving a draw in round 1 against Somerset. That's been their real struggle. Good win for Sussex. They've really impressed me this year. They really have. Coming up, there was a little bit of a worry. Are they going to be able to take the step up to Division 1? But they've had no problems whatsoever. In terms of the Division 1 table, Notts are first, Warwickshire second, Sussex third, Surrey fourth, Essex fifth, Hampshire sixth, Durham seventh, Yorkshire eighth, Somerset ninth, and Worcestershire down in 10th. That 5th to 9th is looking quite close. Just 9 points separate them. Then there's a bit of a clump, Warwickshire to Surrey. There's only 8 points between them, and then Notts 12 points clear at the top. Looking pretty good for moving on to Division 2. Joe, we come on to your Lancs, and it didn't look good this week. Northants, 238 in their first innings. At one point, they were 67 for 6. They climb up to 238. Lancs in reply, 276. Marcus Harris scoring yet another century. He's been unbelievable for them so far. The highest run scorer in both the divisions in county cricket. Northants then put on 273 in their second innings, giving Lancs 236 to chase. They were 116 for 2 at one point. They then collapsed to 165 all out. The wrist spin of Calvin Harrison takes 4 for 32 as Lancs are blown away. I saw this coming. I saw that they were 100 for 2, and I thought Lancs are going to bottle this, and that's exactly what they do. But Joe, I'll let you go off the long run. What's gone on with Lancs?
It's hard to know, really hard to know at the start. It's been a crazy week. Obviously, this defeat was disheartening. I think anything above 200 would have been a tough chase. Obviously, we saw that. Frustrating to not be able to bowl Northants out. I will just say Northants were brilliant in this game. I don't want to kind of make this a Lancs play badly. I think Northants outplayed Lancs absolutely. I think to come back from 238 all out was a really good effort because, yeah, I mean, particularly in the morning when they were actually 67 for 6 at one point. So to kind of come back and get themselves up to 238 was a great effort. The tail really wagged there. And then again in that second inning, just to get themselves up to that 273 mark and give Lancs a target of 236 was an impressive effort. Ben Sanderson, fantastic. Save again with runs. I think from a Lancs point of view, it's hard to know where to turn. It's been a bit of a crazy week off the pitch. Obviously, there was that statement released by Chiltern where they kind of openly backed the coach, which personally for me is kind of getting to an untenable position now, which is a real shame. But I do kind of think it's getting to that point. But they've kind of openly backed him, which I respect. I think you've got to kind of back the guy who you brought in. I will say it's kind of hard for them to sack now because it's almost like an admittance of their own failure, I suppose, in a way, if they then go back on themselves and sack him, let's just say 2 games for argument's sake. So I do think probably Benkenstein will have the season now, unless something in the blast goes horribly wrong. So that happened. And then Keaton Jennings stepped down as captain. I feel a little bit sorry for him. He seems to have been the fall guy in all this. And sure, he's not had the weight of runs he would have wanted, but he's proven in previous seasons that the runs and the captaincy don't kind of affect each other, really. I mean, he got 1,000 runs last year whilst being captain. So I feel like after what was a pretty strong start and a couple of weeks that he's kind of tailed off a little bit, he has kind of been made the fall guy. And it, to me, feels a little bit like he's jumped before he was pushed kind of thing. Because, yeah, I don't really agree with, well, not really agree because it's his decision, but I'm a little bit disappointed in the fact that he has kind of felt the need to step down because I don't really think it's on him at all, or at least not entirely on him. Marcus Harris is now the temporary captain, so that's going to be an interesting one because he's essentially now got to save the season from a run scoring point of view and also a captaincy point of view. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone who, A, is your best batter this season, is actually the best batter in the country this season, and also B, is very new to the club and probably didn't sign with this expectation of being in this position or having to captain the side at a random point in the season after a terrible start. So it's a big mess. I think the batting order is still wrong. I think the way Lancs go about their cricket is wrong. Although a little bit better in terms of run rate this week, particularly in that first inning, scoring around 3-0, which is a little bit better. I just think the lack of intent is still there, and the batting order. I mean, I feel really sorry for George Bell because I feel like he's a middle order batter, really, a very good player, but I don't think he's an opening batter. He's never done it before in professional cricket, not even done it for the twos, to my knowledge. So I feels a little bit he's been kind of given the short straw, I guess, of kind of opening the batting when, especially you've got Harris, Wells, Borders, and all who have opened the batting. It's a little bit of an odd decision to be. So yeah, look, I think it's a really tough time for Lancs at the minute. Let's kind of put it like that. And I do worry that this is going to only end one way, and that is finishing bottom of Division 2. Because right now it's hard to see where a win comes from. I mean, a game against Derbyshire this week at Old Trafford. Firstly, a side who have done fantastic this season. They've not lost yet. They're also a side who have drawn 4 games, played good cricket in those 4 draws, but Old Trafford is like a draw paradise. So it's hard to see where a result comes from, I guess, in that sense. Yeah, then a trip to Leicestershire, trip to Grace Road. That's, for me, only give them one way, and that's with a win against Leicestershire. They almost beat us early in the season. I think they'll probably beat us at Grace Road, just kind of judging on current evidence. And well, hopefully we can turn it around, but it's a real mess right now. And yeah, I don't envy the position of Marcus Harris, because he's now got a really big task on his hands, and I'll be interested to see what changes this week.
Yeah, I mean, the Jennings one just feels like the statement came out and he just went, "Oh wait, you're not sacking him? Okay, I'm gonna take the fall as well if you keep him on, so I'm gonna step down." It wouldn't surprise me we're going into next season with Keaton Jennings as the captain again. It really wouldn't surprise me if that happens, or he leaves. I think we're.
He just signed a new 5-year deal, but that is also a worry for me. I don't see who'd want to play for Lancs in that sense right now. Of course, you want to play for Lancs, you want to represent one of the most successful counties in England, but from the other side, kind of, why would you want to come and play for Lancs right now? Because it's not the best place to come and play cricket, I'd imagine, in terms of success purely on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, the Marcus Harris appointment seems odd, that you'd give it to him, who spent 6 weeks into the season. He's probably been in the UK for. Yeah. I thought I would have given it to Jimmy personally. With him coming back, I think it's going to be Friday.
I think it'll be Friday. It has to be. To me, it has to be Friday. I know they don't want to rush Jimmy back. I understand why they don't want to rush Jimmy back. I'm sure he's.
Why not? Why not rush him? What's he got to play for?
Well, I'm sure he's absolutely chomping at the bit to play. I guess maybe they're just trying to kind of protect him. But I'm sure he's probably chomping at the bit to play, desperate to get out there. I would be very surprised if he wasn't in the team on Friday. He was name dropped by Chilton in the statement, and he basically said, "We're hoping to have Jimmy back very soon," to paraphrase what he said. So that implies that he will play on Friday. At the very latest, he'll play at Grace Road, but I think he'll be back this week. He and Bahanan are kind of still vice captains. So I mean, that was Bahanan's role anyway. So he's obviously not lost that, and then Jimmy will, I guess, support him in that role, help him with those duties. So yeah, it's interesting. I really don't know what's going to happen this week. If they keep the same team, I hope George Bell moves down the order, because I think he can really show what he can do down the order. And I have a feeling that Marcus Harris might open the batting. I don't know, just kind of a random feeling that I have. Part of me thinks maybe he'll just say, "I'm just going to open the batting," and George Bell gets the back 4, which is what he does best, batting in the middle order.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that Marcus Harris hasn't opened the batting, just for the simple fact of there is an opening space in that Australia side. There is a World Test Championship final in England in a month's time. Why has he not said, well, if I open the batting and I score this volume of runs, opening the batting, surely that puts me in with a shout of a spot in the Australia side?
Well, I guess he's had no kind of power in that sense. You know, he's always been told by the coach. It's like if you rock up on a Saturday and your coach says, "You're batting 5 or 4 or whatever," but you want to open the bat. It's not really something that you just say, "No, I'm not." So I feel like it probably kind of works in a similar way. So yeah, maybe that's the thing. I also wouldn't be surprised if Lancs made a random signing out of nowhere tomorrow, like a random loan signing, be it an opening batter or a middle order player with the intention of Harris opening the batting. Also got Mike Jones, who can obviously come back into the side. If that's the case, I'd be interested to see who he replaces, where he bats as well. That'll be another very interesting thing. So look, there's a lot of changes that Lancs can make in the next kind of 24 to 48 hours. I'd imagine Jimmy will come back in. Mahmood will play. I would imagine that Jones will come back into the side. Where he bats, I don't know yet. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. That's for sure. The Derbyshire game is fascinating already.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm on Lancashire's cricket info page, and it's got a section and it's top run scorers in the last 12 months. So that would have been the end of last season and the start of this season. Can you name the top 3 run
I would guess
scorers?
Harris is probably number 1.
No. So it's from kind of round 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 from last year.
Okay.
And the first 6 games.
Harris must be in there, right?
He's third. He's
Okay,
third.
Jennings, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe someone like Balderson.
No, it's Bohannon.
Is it Bohannon? Yeah, Bohannon. I was supposed to see him, Hurst and Bohannon. Yeah. Wow.
Which would worry me that a bloke that's played 5 matches for me has scored more runs than all my other players.
He's in unbelievable form as well. This is the best start to a Lancs stint as an overseas player I've ever seen. Batter bowler, anyone. It's been an unbelievable start. So long may it continue, because if you halve Harris's runs, we are in big trouble this season, and we already are in big trouble with the bottom of Division 1. Division 2. So,
and the problem is that the draws that you've had. So you started off with 4 draws. It's not like the other teams save the draw. Lancs have saved the draw every single time. The Middlesex game, you had 2 wickets left and you kind of saved it. There was a point during that innings where you could have won. And then the Leicestershire game, they massively outscored you in the first innings. You bowled out for 263. Leicestershire put on nearly 500. You hold on 2 wickets down for a draw against Gloucestershire, and then obviously beaten by Northants. It's just a worry for me. I will say that I thought Northants were really good.
Massively.
Lower order runs that they were getting as well massively helped. That 65 off 28 from Sanderson
Unreal
was nuts.
Unreal. I've not seen Sanderson do that ever. That's his maiden 50 in first class cricket, and it was an absolutely unreal knock. His previous, his stats are an average of 10 with a strike rate of 52, and he's hit 168 fours and 8 sixes. Bearing in mind he's played 112 first class games, so to play that knock, round of applause, because it was an unbelievable innings. Striking to 232, which, as I mentioned, is nowhere near his career strike rate. So ridiculous knock from Sanderson.
Yeah, and when they're 189 for 8 when he comes out. They're setting Lancs 140, 150 to win if he collapses at that point. Which Lancs won't, because it's 140. It doesn't matter if they bowled out for 160. It's a different mindset. Chasing over 200 in Red Bull cricket is a different mindset. As soon as you go from 199 to 200, it's completely different. Just something gets into your head. I expect a lot of changes from Lancs next week. We will move on to Glamorgan versus Kent. This was an absolute hammering from Glamorgan. Glamorgan make 549 for 9 declared. Ace of Tribe with 94. Ben Kellaway with 181 not out. 4 wickets for Kashif Ali. Kent in reply, 212 they're bowled out for. Chris Benjamin top scoring with 94. Kent asked to follow on. They're then bowled out for 176. 3 wickets for Van der Guten and Asitha Fernando in a really good win for Glamorgan, something that they've needed after a relatively slow start this season. Ben Kellaway, some talent, isn't he?
Yeah, this is a future England player, I think, in all 3 formats. The fact, firstly, that he basically got 2 bowlers in one. He also bowls left arm spin, his right arm spin equally well. But as a batter, he's fantastic. He's really, I think I tweeted, made a home for himself in that Glamorgan middle order now. A really good player of spin, one of the best players I've spin, like naturally good players of spin I've seen in a while. Uses his feet really well. So comfortable hitting down the ground. And yeah, it was a fantastic innings. I think, like I say, future England player. He's obviously Welsh by birth, so I think he will go to the Olympics in 2028. And it's 2028, I think, the Olympics, right? And then that could potentially be his pathway into, like full international honours. But I think he's a ridiculously good player. So I'm fascinated to see his career trajectory. I think he's not really played much T20 cricket, or to be honest, his T20 record isn't great at the moment, but I think he's kind of going to come into his own this year in the Blast as well. Like I said, such a good player has been, and the fact that he bowls as he does, it's just insanely good, insane profile for Glamorgan to have.
And he's not naturally ambidextrous.
Exactly. That's what makes it even cooler.
Taught himself to bowl left-handed.
Is the fact that I'm pretty sure it was in lockdown, he just taught himself how to bowl left-hand spin. Like, you have to be insanely talented to do that, and insanely dedicated. That's why I think one of the reasons he'll make it as an international cricketer, because he just has that something about him. Genuinely not seen a player this exciting who has this profile ever. So yeah, a really unique player, really exciting player. And Ace Tribe as well at the top of the order, buzzing for him as well. More runs, 94. Gutted he couldn't go on and get that century. Obviously got 50 as well last week. Kind of brought back into the side, so he's really kind of reinforcing that decision and building. I know they didn't get many runs as an opening pair this week, but overall building a nice opening partnership with Zainul Hassan as well, who's a good player in his own right. So yeah, I like this Glamorgan batting lineup a lot more than kind of they showed at the start of the season. They were obviously really struggling to score runs, but now they're much better. And even North East getting 42, that's massive because he's their best batter, as well as Ingram. Let's not forget they're getting Marnus back, so they're about to get even better, basically.
Yeah, and an odd start to the season for Kent. They won their first two games against Northants and Middlesex. Then they had that draw at Gloucester where Zach Crawley saved the game for them. They obviously lose that nail biter at Lords last week, and then are absolutely hammered by Glamorgan this week. I mean, an innings and 161 runs. I don't think it's time to worry if you're a Kent fan. You're sat in fourth. That's kind of roughly where we expected them to be. Anyway, kind of that fourth, fifth mark coming down. They just didn't look good last year. They looked comfortably the worst team in the league in Division 1. So I didn't expect them to jump straight back up. And just the other teams look slightly better than them. They need runs. They just need runs. They had Bell Drummond last week, who scored a great double ton. But if this side isn't scoring runs, then I think they are definitely going to struggle. I like that top order, but you obviously had Ben Compton as well. First couple of weeks got off to a really good start. But if they just have got no one scoring runs, then they're going to struggle because that bowling attack isn't really backing anyone
the
up.
big concern for me, and yeah, it's the depth that I worry about. Like at full strength, they're good.
They also have 3 million fast bowling injuries. They have so many
that's what I mean.
bowling
Like,
injuries.
they're so unlucky. They're obviously Keith Dudgeon got injured after 1 week when he got 7 foot. Like they're incredibly unlucky. It was the same last year. Hopefully gonna get where they got back at some point this season, which will be important for them. But yeah, the batting, I think Crawley's such a big miss. I know people, talk about Crawley's lack of form, whatever. The fact of the matter is, Crawley has scored runs this season. He has scored, 3 or 4 50s, particularly in that second innings, which is the most crucial time, I think, to get runs, especially when you're kind of chasing up behind the game. And I think he's such a good, I should say, Compton's such a good foil for him. Compton's just someone who he's just happy to kind of almost chill out the other, and then he just kind of rotate the strike a little bit. He doesn't mind a couple of maidens, doesn't really get to him. He's a very composed player. And having Crawley at the other end, who might just go kind of ballistic and run a ball 60 or something, is such a good foil.
He could also be selected in our Nepo Baby 11 as well.
Yes, good. You're right. You're right about that. Yeah, we're building a bit of a side there.
I think Kent going to be fine. I still can't see him going up. I think they're going to be...
Well, yeah, I think it would take Crawley coming back at the end of the season in form.
But he's not going to, is he? I just can't see... The problem with these England players is that they just do not come back for their counties at the end of the season. How often do you see it?
Batters might. I feel like it was less likely bowlers. Batters might. Because the fact that Crawley's also, yeah, if he doesn't if he's out of nick in the India series, you might want to come back and get back in nick for the Ashes. So if Crawley comes back, they kind of get some of their quicks back. Wes Agar's obviously potentially floating around. I don't think they're not going to kind of come sixth or something, but they might make a push for promotion. But I don't think they'll be too fussed if they don't in many ways, because the first season under Holyoke, a new project, they definitely kind of laid good kind of foundation and groundwork.
Yeah, I agree. Division 2 table looks like this. Leicestershire still top, Derbyshire in second, Middlesex in third, Kent fourth, Northants fifth, Glamorgan sixth, Gloucestershire seventh, and Lancashire are dead last. Lancs fans, don't be too upset. You're only 7th points off fourth, 24 points off a promotion place. So while you are dead last and haven't seen your team win yet, I think Gloucestershire have won once in the last 3 years. So it hasn't quite got that bad yet. It might be okay. I'm sure Marcus Harris will turn it around, and then they'll sack the coach and everyone will be happy. Even Jimmy might show his face this week. But that is the county championship wrapped up. One quick thing we're going to finish with. Virat Kohli obviously retired, and if I put him in the thumbnail, we're going to have to talk about him for at least 2 minutes. Joe, where does he rank in terms of the Fab Four for you?
Oh, it's hard because Williamson's, I just don't think has played the same number of tests to kind of make them comparable, but they've got almost the same number of runs. I think in terms of legacy, Kohli is potentially number one. The impact that he has had on cricket is like astounding. You could certainly, I mean, this is talking to someone who, was born in 2001, so maybe didn't see or can't remember enough of Tendulkar, but perhaps the biggest legacy left by an Indian cricketer ever. Certainly in this day and age with social media, and he's like the third most followed athlete on Instagram or something ridiculous behind Ronaldo and Messi. So the legacy is undeniable. In terms of runs, I would probably put him in either 3 or 4. Oh, well, actually, runs is the wrong word to use there. In terms of kind of impact with the bat, I suppose you probably put him 3 or 4. I'd probably put Smith and Root 1 and 2, and then it's hard. I always change my mind.
In test matches, I have Kohli 4. All formats, I have him 1. I think he's the greatest ODI player we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But in test matches, the problem is that peak between like 2014 and 2018 was just sensational.
Yeah, I think that Smith, Root, and Williamson have maintained their like insane form for longer in Test cricket, which probably like kind of knocks Kohli down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
I probably would put Smith 1. I always change my mind. I probably would put Smith 1 in terms of absolute peak, because that like 2019 Ashes, I've never seen anything like that. He got 100 every single time he batted. It felt like it was ridiculous. So
wasn't he averaging like 64 coming out of that series?
It was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. So I'd probably put Smith 1 in terms of absolute peak. If we're talking like really concentrated time, maybe Kohli's peak is better. Root's peak is probably now. You'd say like the last, well, since he probably dropped the captaincy, is his peak, isn't it really? And then Williamson is just an incredibly consistent player who will probably cross that 10,000 run threshold himself. Obviously, Virat didn't manage to do that, which is a shame. I wish he wasn't retiring. I understand the reasons why. The reasons that have been kind of publicised, I understand why he's doing it from that point of view. But the truth be told, I wish he wasn't retiring. I wish we got to see him have one last crack at Test cricket, especially in England. But also, just for a player like that to reach 10k runs would have been special. But look, a legend of the game. And I have a feeling he'll rock up in the county championship soon enough anyway. So
you think he's going to get a county kick?
Don't forget he lives in London. That's all I'll say.
What middle? So we could have Virat Kohli and Kane Williamson.
Maybe not. That would be nice, but I don't think I would go that far.
Do they get in over Lewis Deploy and Max Holden at this point? That's what I've got to say. I mean, I'm not sure if those two get.
Well, you got to think of the cricket draft as well. Like, do you pick Virat? He'd be probably the most expensive player in history of the cricket draft. Funny, so.
Do you know, it does make me laugh. I saw a thing that Matt Henry's going to be playing for Somerset this week, and he's 8.6 million on Cricket Draft, and I just have not got a hope in hell of trying to fit him in unless I make some big time changes. But I do want him in my squad. We'll probably have a look. Joe, how did you get on this week, Cricket
My
Draft?
best week since, well, actually, my best week at all, actually. Let me just quickly break it up. I didn't have 2 players playing just because of selection. And also, Nathan Smith got minus points. And I still managed to get 1,789. So yeah, my best week at all. Which given I had essentially 3 players who didn't contribute anything to the team, was pretty good going. I was pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how I finished. At 1,775 points. I had Adam Lyth, who had that big century. Abbas, who took a 5 for Marcus Harris, who scored a century. Pepper got me 145. I had Abbott, who scored that quick 50 and got a 5 for. I picked the wrong Warwickshire all-rounder, which was slightly upsetting. But looking at next week, I would like to try and fit Matt Henry in, maybe swap Porter out, maybe get rid of Webster, go a little bit cheaper in the all-rounder spot, and then try and fit Matt Henry in because
I can actually fit Henry in, and I stuck between him and Simon Harmer. I was originally going to go for Seals, but he's turns out he's on international duty already. So it's between Henry and Harmer, and I've literally just changed it to Henry now, and I'm probably going to keep changing it until, very late on Friday morning. So
yeah. But that is going to be it for today's episode. I very much hope you enjoyed it. Remember to go check out Joe. All of his links will be down in the description. Remember to like, subscribe, follow the podcast, leave us a review, leave us a comment on the Spotify and wherever else you get your podcast. And I'll see you guys next. I'm trying to think what's coming up. Might be next Wednesday for another county championship review. If there's anything else in between, we might even do a bit of a preview for England playing Test cricket next week, which is very, very exciting. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.